Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Right. Just give me a sec. Is my screen visible?
Yes, sir, your screen is visible.
Right. Thanks, Suri. Thanks for the wonderful introduction. And I was not knowing that you know my stint at Rohit. I joined in Rohit in 92 and joined Bolaram in 95. Before that, I was in a steel forging industry in Kerala for about 1 year, public sector.
Okay, sir, your
Let me start.
profile is not saying all these things.
Where? LinkedIn.
LinkedIn is not saying.
So
Sorry.
data available in public domain is not that all about an individual. Okay. Yeah. Good morning to everybody, and respected Pradeep sir, AV sir, Tulsi sir, so, and all the Adrajalam Silvers team. And thank you, Suri, for connecting me to this forum. And I am also getting benefited from various sessions. I got some video recordings of Tulsi sir and Pradeep sir on startup was extremely inspiring. And transformational leadership from Tulsi sir also was good. I heard AV sir talking about IoT and the journey of Adrajalam. Krishnan's session was good. So all Mathu was inspired. So it's a very, very great session, and you are keeping it forward. And I'm very happy to be contributing towards whatever I can to this forum. And very, very good morning once again on a happy, nice Sunday. And it's my privilege to share some of my learnings here and my learnings as a part of getting my PMI certification. And I am mindful that my gurus are there, my mentors are there. So with due respect and with their concurrence and with their blessings, sir, Pradeep sir, AV sir, I'm just attempting whatever I learned here. And the topic today is a systematic approach to project management. See, before I get onto the theory, why am I saying a systematic approach to project management? Many of us are accidental project managers many a time. You heard the time like, Manmohan Singh, people are saying accidental prime minister. So like, I was just taking me back to Rohit days. Just Suri's introduction has prompted me to just recollect that. When I joined Rohit in 1992, I was also an accidental project manager. They told me that they were going for a pulp mill expansion project. They got some brown stock washers from Hindustan Oliver, because all those things were Greek and Latin for me when I joined the company. Who is Hindustan Oliver? Pradeep sir and Devi sir knows he's a pulp and paper equipment manufacturer in those days, 90s, 92. So they said, you need to install this brown stock washers, BS1, BS2, and some, backwater will come to the silo. There will be a vacuum there. Brown stock washers has to be on the 40-meter floor because of some gravity issues. Then there are some pumps to be. But I never had an overall view on, by when I should complete this. How many days I can take for completing the pump erection? What are the dependencies of, for installing me a pump or a pipeline, and how it is interlinked? Communication was bad. I just thought I will add on to this after listening to Suri's introduction. So I was also an accidental project manager in 1992, where we did some job to best of our abilities, but we could have done it better had there been some basics of project management in those senior management that time. That apart, I will again take you some other stories from day-to-day life. Why are we talking about systematic project management? See, one generation ago, maybe during my childbirth or so, deliveries used to happen at home. Nobody used to go to a hospital or consult a qualified doctor for deliveries. Many times it happens at home. The lady, if she is getting a pain, and skilled lady, called midwife or who is expert in taking delivery, she will come, elicit the process, do some cajoling. I don't know how it used to happen. And then deliveries used to happen. Probably mortality rate may be slightly high. Now it is 3%. In those days it may be 5% or 6%, but deliveries used to happen. And that is where all of us are here. But today, we will not go to a midwife, or we will not allow any of our family members to have a delivery at home. We will go to a qualified doctor, a qualified hospital, where systems and processes are in place. And qualified doctor will be taking the delivery of the baby, which is a project for you in your career. So we wanted to avoid risk as much as possible in our personal life. Coming to the professional life also, it's a project, which has to happen on time, risk-free. Second example, what I say from the, graduating from old generation, new generation is marriages. Earlier, weddings used to happen in a house or in a village where the date is fixed first. The boys and girls, parents or the family members decide the date based on the muhurt what's available. Maybe 3 months down the line or 6 months down the line or 1 year down the line, whatever it is. And the project manager, who is the father of the groom or the bride, he works everything backwards, including financials, including communications, including printing cards, and the wedding happens on that day. What bang on. There is no question heard earlier also, wedding got postponed because the printer was not able to print the card. For the vegetable, there was a shortage in the market. So all those things that happened systematically those days due to some skills or some basic system which had in place. But today, I don't think anybody will depend on an individual to do a marriage. We will go to a event management firm or somebody to do the project. So that's why I was talking about my slide is not moving.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is moving.
Is it moving now?
Yes.
Right, Suri. So can I continue? The audio is okay. I need to slow down.
Everything is okay, sir. You can continue.
Okay, thank you, Suri. So my presentation is structured like this. I'm also happy to know that some people are looking for PMI certification and you would like to know the fundamentals of what PMI is and what are the requirements of PMP. I can touch upon, but it's a big subject. Probably those who are interested, we can connect offline also, but I will connect the basics of what PMI is and what is the requirement of getting a PMI certification. Okay, I will be also covering what is a project. It is not, truly, this session is not truly applicable only those who are, so to say, doing projects. There are many things what we do in our day-to-day sphere of life or sphere of official life, which is similar to a project. So whatever we are talking about, the systems and procedures are applicable to smaller projects also. And in the project management process, there are 5 processes, 5 phases: initiation, planning, execution, monitoring and control, and project closure. That's it. And these 5 sessions are further split into different knowledge areas and processes, which I will be covering. And we will have a question and answer towards the end of the thing. Now, what you can expect out of this 1 hour session? I am sure that all of you attending this session, especially the juniors, will be getting a fair amount of understanding about project management processes and the terminology what is being used and the standards which is being practiced internationally. There is nothing different in Ganapati doing in US or in Middle East or we in India. The processes are same because we all follow PMI standard. Now, okay, the right side is the certification what I had in 2015, and actually it mandates me to keep engaged with the PMI body and the network and collect some PDUs, so that the membership is active. Otherwise, membership will get lapsed in 3 years. Now, coming to what is the purpose or what is the vision of the PMI? Why it has come? So, as we were discussing, there was a need to have professionalism in project management. It cannot be based on the whims and fancies of a so-called project manager or an accidental project manager. So this forum helps us to exchange the ideas, to set up standards, and have a common terminology and techniques across all the project management communities. It also provides guidelines for instruction and career development for the project management. And the right side, you see something called PMBOK. I don't know how many of you are knowing. This is called Project Management Body of Knowledge. This is the 6th edition now. I think when I wrote the exam, it was 5th edition. There are some small corrections. And Ganapati, this is a 500-page book. If you go to each and every page, you will go mad. But if you are clear about the fundamentals, each and every page of that book is like a golden rules. So once we have an overview of what we are going to talk today, then you go through that PMBOK, then you realize that the meat of every line what is mentioned in the PMBOK. It's a very, very beautiful book. And I will just quickly go forward because already we are 15 minutes past I need to manage time also. Now, what is a project? The definition of project is a unique process which consists of a set of coordinated and controlled activities which has got a start and finish date. And for achieving an objective, which has got three constraints, but we call triple constraints: time, cost, and quality. So the project should have a scope, should have a time, should have cost and resources limitations. Both limitation or within the contours of what is allotted to you. And a simple sentence, in a simple sentence, what PMI says is, it's a temporary endeavor undertaken to create a unique product or service. It can be a service or it can be a product, but it has to be unique. If I am saying today I am going to make 500 tons of folding box board in PM1A, that is not a project. I am saying today I will break the record, that is not a project. It has to be unique and it should have a specific start date and end date. So the definition is very simple. Probably we can go through some of the examples which makes you more clearer. Why do we have these projects? Projects are driven with the market demand. There are organizational needs. Organization has to grow, so ITC has to put up more machines. Capacity enhancement has to happen. Technology advances. 3G, it has become 4G. Now the 5G we are talking about. The technology advances, definitely people have to do projects. Then there are some legal requirements. If GST is coming up, then many organizations need to set up this system in place to meet with those legal requirements. Ecological impact, social impact. I'll just go a bit fast because it is very clear to all of us. And social needs, pulse polio, other projects are some examples of the projects what we undertake. Correct. Now there are three stages in the project management hierarchy in an organization or in the country. There are three stages. We all talk about project management. And somebody talk about program management, especially in IT industry. They talk about somebody is a project manager. Tomorrow he says I am program manager. Tomorrow he says I am portfolio manager. These words are used. I will not say loosely, but people may not be very clear about what is project, what is program, what is portfolio. But the pictorial depiction what I have shown is project is a single level activity. Multiple projects can lead to a program. Multiple projects which are leading to the common cause, something like I want to put up a pulp mill and a paper machine. There are two independent projects in this. Paper machine project is a project, pulp mill project is a project. But put together somebody has to handle, that is called the program. And say something like portfolio. ITC wants to expand the FMCG business into different categories. So under portfolio, he will have something on foods, he'll have something on personal care, something on tobacco. So there are various businesses which come under portfolio management, but program is a group of dependent projects or like which is interdependent for a common cause. I have given an example which normally people use is an automobile company. If it wants to get into a portfolio management of automobiles, probably they can have a separate project for cars, separate for trucks and SUV, and cars and SUV probably can be combined into under a same program manager. So this is the basic definition of hierarchy of portfolio, project, and program and project in any organization. Now I will get into what is happening in India. In India, all the major projects are monitored by Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. That is a ministry under which the projects monitoring is happening. If you look into the website, and even all the projects above 150 crore, even PMO directly monitors. It was very, very robust in the first phase of Modi's government. Subsequently, I am not seeing that much of a perfect updation in the website now. And they engage professional bodies, to get into statistics or the data about what is happening in India. So the bottom left, what I have shown is the survey which is done by KPMG and PMI, Project Management Institute of India. So combinedly, they have taken a survey or collected data on what is happening to the infrastructure projects in India. And the study was only for projects which is more than 150 crores. It's all major projects. So as on, I think this was for May 19, the report was published in June, about 1,300 projects. I think Jan 2018, right? So about 1,300 projects which were above 150 crore with an outlay, cash outlay of 16 lakh crores. The survey, as on when the study was happening, is 27% of the projects were delayed on time, and 26% had cost overrun, and about 8 to 10% had both time and cost overrun. And the magnitude of cost overrun, time overrun was very, very abnormally high. So then in that report itself, they were suggesting that a need for a professional approach on government project management approach. They also recommended to have PMI certified project managers for executing the project like smart cities and so many new projects. So it's a very alarming numbers. Probably in ITC, our success rate will be much better, but all over India, huge revenue is getting lost, and it is really, really huge. Now the same survey report, I have just taken it onto another pictorial way, bubble diagram. Different sections of the industry, petroleum, railways. The pink one is 1,28,000 crore, 36% cost overrun, and 50 months delay. And the other one is, just to give some numbers, just to give you a flavor that the importance of project management in public sector projects in India. This is the tabular form, how the value loss is happening. It is the same bubble diagram what I was shown in the previous page. It's in the tabular form. So railways is having the highest time overrun, 54%. Oh, okay, not 54. Shipping is having some projects with 159% overrun. So it is really, really huge. Railway is having cost overrun of 36%. That is highest. So I will now. So the background is set. I will just get on to the the fundamentals. So the surveys and the study says that mainly there are 6 mistakes that lead to delay in project and missing of the project. One is not understanding the requirement. Project manager who is sitting there, he is not understanding the requirement of the customer, or so to say the stakeholders. And he is starting the project without a plan. He is not sure what will happen 3 months down the line or 6 months down the line. Is everything tied up? The interdependency in a project is very huge. And how good is he in communication? What communication means? It is not that you only talk to your subordinate on what is the project status and the importance of cost and time control. Project communication has to be much, much more superior and much more scientific, which I will be covering in the next couple of slides. Do they have right resources? Like KPMG's report says, there is no qualified, certified PMI person to undertake lakhs crores worth of projects in PSU, whereas most of the IT companies, if you want to become a project manager beyond certain $1 million, you must have a qualified certification from PMI. PMI or Prince 2. Okay, in UK there is another certification that is called Prince 2, which is similar to this. And the 5th one is failing to manage and control, and the 6th one is failing to learn from past mistakes or past projects. There is one crucial area. Are you again reinventing the wheel? Because I may be doing a 7th or 8th machine in Bhadrachalam. Am I learning something from the previous project? Is there a documentation available? Is there a repository of knowledge available? What were the issues we faced in the previous project, and how are you correcting it upon? Again, it's another pie diagram says the reasons. Now we are gradually getting on to the subject. So we talked about having a systematic approach to come out of these nuances, not to mess up with the project. And project management is all about application of knowledge, skills, and tools and techniques for all the project activities to accomplish the task. How you will do it? I talked about 5 process groups, and there are 10 knowledge areas. If you are very clear about these 5 process groups and 10 knowledge areas, and the elements of these 10 knowledge areas, half work is done. Then only we need to ensure that you don't miss out each and every element of that details. And project manager and his team is responsible for accomplishing the objectives. If a project is given to a project manager and a team, you cannot put it to the senior management or the sponsor or the customer for any failure. it is the duty of the project manager and the project team to keep all the stakeholders informed and to get the requirement from the stakeholder. You cannot say that he has not given the requirement. It is the responsibility of the project manager to collect the requirement. And there is a scope definition. I will come to that in a while. It is not that all stakeholders, whatever they are saying we need to do. There are methods of doing that. And for the team, it is our baby. That has to be the passion for the project managers. Say, for example, in one of the project managers national conference, somebody from Army was there. Then he was saying, for people to be positioned, for the Army people to be positioned on the line of control and in the border areas, there is no incentive available. You cannot give an ESOP. But what is making them to risk their life and on a command of the leader, they are willing to face the bullet. So that is the training and that is the network and that is the system what is built in the army, whether it is Indian Army or wherever it is. There is no ESOPs, there is no promotion, and there is no so-called reward and recognition what we have in the private sector. So it is the passion and it is the concept of it is our baby for the project management team as an office to deliver what we are expected to deliver. Now I am coming to the basic subject. This you will get from the PMBOK. It talks about the 5 process groups: project initiation, project planning, project execution, project monitoring and control, and project closing. Both execution and monitoring and control goes hand in hand. It is almost parallel. Whereas initiation is the first thing to happen and closure is the last thing to happen. And the right side, if you see what I mentioned in that box, 5 processes, 10 knowledge areas, and under the 10 knowledge area, there are 49 processes. That's it. If you understand the 49 processes, your half the job is done. Then if you know that this has to be done, you will find a way how to do it. Or you will find somebody in your team who can do the 49 processes. It's all about project management. From initialization of project to closing of the project, everything will be covered in that 49 processes. Now I am coming to another chart which depicts how the level of activity moves, in the journey of a project. If you are starting the project in the startup phase, the level of activity is much less because there will be a limited number of people working on business case, setting up the project objectives, getting the approval from business project sponsors. Then you get into the planning phase, the resource load will be slightly more. The level of activity will be more. We may be appointing a consultant. We will be working on the scheduling, time scheduling, cost scheduling. We will be setting up on the team, sourcing. Then you come to execution. The execution starts immediately after the project's start phase and ends till the finish. Okay. The controlling phase also, you can see the one with which is spanning across all the phases. The controlling, the company like ITC has got a very good project control and monitoring mechanisms, whether it is financial control, whether it is controlling during procurement, whether it is contract management. So controlling spans across all the phases. And last but not the least, project closing process, where how to sign off with the customer, what is the lessons learned, how do we document this, closing of the dealing with the vendors and all. It's all very clearly mentioned in the project closing process. This next slide, what I would like to seek your attention is I have given some three graphs here. Let me just move this. Is that graph clear, Suri? Is it coming? Can I continue? Somebody can. Yeah, because there are 3 different colors, so I am not very sure whether it is coming. Yes. So I have not put it in animation. It's for. I'll just touch one by one. Don't look into all the graphs, so people may get confused. So I have numbered graph number 1. It is the stakeholder influence on a project and risk and uncertainty. So for example, if I want to get an approval for a project, so whether it is a new paper machine or a pulp mill, the senior management team, whoever is, who we call the project sponsor, has got all the authority. The degree of freedom is very high, whether to sanction it or no to sanction, or how big it should be. So he has got the utmost power at that stage, and at that stage the risk is also high. Whether we should get into container board business or we should get into tissue business. So the influence is very high for the sponsor or the stakeholder. But once it is approved and released, as we go along on the timeline, towards the end of the project, sponsor has got very little control. Okay, if I have taken an approval for whatever 700 crore for one paper machine project, and after some time, if I say that I need another 30-40 crore, there is no way sponsor can say now I will not give. So the sponsor he is helpless at that time, because already you have made 80% of the work, and the sponsor is at your mercy. So we are very clear about the stakeholder influence. So stakeholders have to be very stakeholder in the sense, sponsor has to be very clear at the beginning of the project how he would like to steer the project and go ahead with the project. Now we'll come to the second graph, staffing and cost. The cost, as you know, it starts in a very tapered way, and during the project execution time, the cost goes up, and the resourcing, the number of people what we have to deploy, the civil people, the erection people, so all those things will go up during execution. So when you are doing a resource planning, we should be mindful that during that phase of the project, if it's a 1-year project, maybe from month 6 to month 10, you are going to have a huge cost and staffing requirement. And see, this is all the more important when companies have to do a funding. Okay, ITC, we may not be very worried about that aspect, but the company which depends on a project which is dependent on the institutional funding, the costing has to be, the incoming has to be planned in a way with this, keeping this in mind. Then the third graph, cost of change. We all know the cost of change is very minimal at the beginning of the project. Towards the end of the project, if some stakeholder comes and says that this is not the way it should have been, then the cost of change is very high. It's all the more important for us to keep this in mind for the project manager and the senior project governing team. All these three graphs are very crucial for successful execution of any project. And there is another concept, agile versus waterfall. In conventional project like ours, we go with the waterfall model. Once the project scope and project charter is finalized, we know that we need to set up a paper machine of say 150,000 tons, and that is the Bible, and we don't keep changing it. It's a 3-wire configuration. We won't keep changing it. Whereas in the agile model, which is more relevant in IT industry, there will be small deliveries. Once in a 15 days or once in a month, the project team start giving their output to the customer. They take the customer feedback and they tweak if any correction has to be done. Otherwise, in major IT projects, end of the 12 months or 1-year project, if you give the project deliverable to the customer and customer says this is not what I was looking for, then it ends up in a huge cost of change. So the model of agile versus waterfall or waterfall versus agile keeps changing based on the industry what you are in and the type of project what you are in. Can we have an agile model in a hardcore paper machine sort of project? No, it has to be something like a waterfall model, of course. But we can take some concepts from agile. Can we route the piping in such a way that it is more safe or more user friendly? Now coming to the triple constraints of a project, very important. So all of us are knowing this, but the concept of triple constraint, which is nothing but project scope, cost, and time, is all interdependent. And inside this, you have project quality or the product quality, which is going to come out of the project. If you want to minimize the time, probably you will have to put in more resources, then the cost will go up. If you want to increase the scope, definitely time and cost may go up. So this triple constraint, how do you keep it optimal, is the challenge which most of the project managers will face. And just to elaborate this slightly further, from a two-dimensional picture, some of the documents takes it into a next level of constraints. A three-dimensional graph, which talks about performance, cost and time, and the target. We need to align all the required performance, budget, and cost, and the timeline in a three-dimensional way. Now I am coming to the core subjects. We talked about initiation, planning, execution, monitoring, control, and closure. Now, what one should do when you are in the initiation phase? You should understand the business case. What is the purpose? What is it going to do for the company or for the business? You have to identify the stakeholders. It's a very generic term, stakeholder. Who is stakeholder? I will come to that in the next slide. But you need to identify the stakeholder at the time of initiation of the project. You need to have a stakeholder register. You need to list down who are all the stakeholders. If you are failing to do that, you will have different consequences, which I will just touch upon. And how do you manage your stakeholders? There has to be a stakeholder management strategy. Okay, it is not that all stakeholders are unique or equal. I need to have a different strategy for different types of stakeholders. And there is scientific methods to collect the requirements. And the project charter is supposed to have what are the constraints you are going to face, what are the assumptions you are going to do. And if it is a big project, you divide that project into different phases. And you create measurable objectives. At that phase, you need to decide on the project team and the project charter, and a project charter which has to be signed by the project sponsor. Especially the assumptions are very, very crucial. You would see in the last couple of projects what I handled, there is a signed document which is signed by none other than the BCE, naming, it's a. I'll just take a minute, buddy. No? Next meeting. No. Sorry, my maid servant was there. So can I continue? Sorry for the disturbance.
Continue, sir. Please continue.
Sure. So it is always better to have a signed project charter which endorses, what are all the assumptions what you have taken, what are all the constraints you have assumed, and what is the risk what you are foreseeing. Now moving on further. It also talks about, after identifying the team members, who is the project manager and what is his authority levels, and beyond what he has to go to the next level for authority, and a broad summary of budget and milestones. At this time, you will not be having a detailed activity-wise costing. You will be having a broad budget which is allocated to you, and the roles and responsibilities. So we talked about process areas in initiation, planning, execution, control and monitoring, and project closure. Now we have 10 knowledge areas, which is the full, the entire coverage of project will be in this 10 knowledge areas. The knowledge areas are stakeholder management, scope management, schedule management, cost management. I think you can see that, and I don't want to repeat it. HR management, communication management. How do you manage your risk? How do you do the procurement? What are the different types of procurement strategy you can adopt? And project integration management. Integration management is very, very crucial. So it is the job of the project manager and the project management office to integrate all these knowledge areas together and align it in a very, very nice way with harmony. So I was talking about the 49 processes. Don't get worried about this, especially those who are going to attend the exam. You need not memorize it, but you should know the concept very clearly. I'll just tell you what this table is all about. The process groups are there: initiation, planning, execution, monitoring, and control, closing. And in project initiation phase, what you are supposed to do? Only two things you are supposed to do: develop project charter, identify your stakeholders, which we covered in a previous slides. Project initiation phase, you develop the project charter, and what are the ingredients or requirement of project charter we already covered, and you identify your stakeholders. When it is coming to planning, you have another set of activities: quality management, cost management, HR management, communication management. When you are in execution, you have a different set of processes. When you are in monitoring and control, you have something like controlling of cost, controlling of quality, controlling of schedule. And then we are coming to closure, you have project closure. This is all about project management. 5 phases, 10 knowledge areas, and 49 processes. Sorry. We discussed about project stakeholders. If somebody is on the deathbed or somebody expires, they say, you inform all the stakeholders, but whom to call? There is no clear communication. Who are all the stakeholders? So how do you know who are all the stakeholders for that person? A stakeholder is a person or a group of people who is getting impacted by a decision, activity, or the outcome of a project. If you are constructing a metro rail, somebody who is staying below that railway pillar, those people staying there will get impacted because they will be losing a shelter. They are a stakeholder. There may be a small temple, something there. There will be they will get affected. So they are also a stakeholder. Of course, we know the project sponsor is a stakeholder. Banks are stakeholders. Customers are definitely stakeholders. Suppliers, end user, government agencies, pollution control board, your municipality, panchayat, all are stakeholders. Maintenance and operation teams. We have a concept called early management. Sorry. And neighbors, community, shareholders, fusion community, all those who are getting impacted or influenced are all coming under stakeholders. Now I'm going a bit fast because already we are at 10:43. How do we identify the stakeholder interest and their knowledge levels and expectation? How do we relate them to the purpose of the project? How do we identify the project impact to your stakeholder? And all those things we are supposed to clarify with your stakeholders. How do you build a relationship with your stakeholder? How do you document their intention? See, in something like 2003, we went for a project of shop floor automation, MES project optimization. So we have not really understood some stakeholders in the shop floor. They had a special type of requirement. If you are failing to understand that requirement, do corrective action, the project may not be a good success. It will be if you don't have the buy-in of some stakeholders, you will end up in having a not so good project, however robust your solution may be. Now, there are different types of stakeholders. Normally, project management PMBOK says that you need to classify them into two by two metrics based on their influence of power or their interest. Some people may be low in their interest and low in influence of power. So you have to just keep them monitoring what they are doing. You keep them informed. That's it. They will not do much of harm. The second one, those who are having very good interest, but they don't have good influence of power, you have to keep them informed and you should know what is their mindset, because the senior management or somebody who is in the next quadrant, who is having high influence and high power, they will definitely take feedback from these people, those who are having high interest and not having that power. It's all the more important for us to keep the light blue, the second one, keep them informed. And they keep satisfied. How do you do? Somebody who is having high influence and high power, but they don't have interest. But they will not have any interest on the project, but still we need to keep them, somebody like a local person or a local MLA, you have to keep them satisfied so that your project goes on time. And of course, those who are having good interest in the project and having high influence, you have to keep them engaging, you have to keep them consulting, you have to give them periodic information, you need to have a methodology to keep them engaged. Now, how do we collect the requirements of the stakeholders? See, for any project manager, the requirement is going to be huge, huge, huge. That will come in different timelines. At the beginning of the project, nobody will say that, I need to do this, I need to do this. As we go along in the journey, you start getting more and more, scope onto your thinking. So you need to have interview with your stakeholders. There are some focus group discussion. There are structured questionnaires and surveys. There are benchmarking what your competitor has done, whether, whatever they have done in their project. Also, probably we will have to take it in our project. So collecting the requirement is the first fundamental thing for a project manager to do. And you document that. What is the stakeholder requirement? Is it meeting the business need? And what is the acceptance criteria? You cannot have a different acceptance criteria at the end of the project. So in the scope management itself, you very clearly document that this is the requirement given by the stakeholder And this is going to be the acceptance criteria so that there is no heartburn at the end of the project. And also you need to understand what is the expectation in terms of quality and training requirement. Then you define the scope. Once you have crossed the scope, that's it. Then you need to just execute it. Then there is no point in revisiting the scope and revalidating and adding something to that. Because the moment you touch your scope again, your triple constraint, the triangle will change.
Sir, if you want a break, you can take a break, sir, for a glass
it's
of
okay,
water.
sorry, we will run out of time otherwise. It's okay.
Okay.
Okay. Now coming to the scope management, it is very, very important to clearly establish what is excluded in this project. So otherwise, many people will take it as granted that if a previous project was having this project also will have this. If you are not having any specific thing in this project, you have to say, this is not being considered in this project. And also acceptance criteria we have discussed. And we will just move forward. Now comes to project planning. So what did we do till now? We have different phases. We are in the initiation phase. In the initiation phase, we prepared the project charter. We identified our stakeholders. So from our stakeholders, we collected the requirement. And we grouped our requirement, which is meeting with the business requirement. And we frozen the requirement. Now that is done. We have an acceptance criteria. Now we are going to, how do we plan it? Now, as you all know, adequate planning will result in a correct completion of the work. If you are not having adequate planning, poor planning will lead to poor performance. The basic fundamental thing in project management is preparing a robust WBS element, work breakdown structure. How are we drilling down the project into small elements, which again, this has to be done with the involving right people. We should put enough time to do this. And that is the key success factors for splitting the project into smaller WBS elements. Why that is required? Because this WBS element, when you go for a bottoms-up approach, it is required for your time management, schedule management, and also the cost management. So this is very, very important to have a robust work breakdown structure for your project. Work breakdown structure is the foundation of entire project planning. So we cannot have a work breakdown structure based on electrical is one breakdown structure, mechanical is, that is not work breakdown. It's a hierarchical representation of the project activities. And PMBOK defines something, an activity which is up to say 40 hours duration or some value based on the project. We can have an understanding that should be captured as a WBS element. Just to give a glance on the hierarchy, the project scope can be split into supply of equipment and the service. Again, in supply, we can put it into process, civil, mechanical, electrical. Again, in process, it can be further split into WBS element. And the project manager and the project team will execute the work which is in the WBS element and only that work. Give me a sec. Sorry, give me a sec. I'll start in the minute. Now we are coming to RACI metrics, roles and responsibility. I just blocked the top names. This is a real life thing. So because it's a open forum, I removed the names of the senior management team. So very clearly, we need to have an RACI metrics who will be, who is responsible, who is accountable, who will be consulted, and who will be informed. This is very, very normal. There is nothing much. Then comes to project scheduling, MS projects. What is the advantage of this? Once you identify the WBS elements, we will attach some timelines to this, and we will link it, which is the predecessor, which is the successor. We link all the activities in a MS projects or Primavera, whatever it's convenient to us, and we can arrive at a critical path, and we can track the project progress on an S-curve. This is a small example of some civil activities, how we are scheduling it. Okay, so activities and tasks are identified, and task dependencies are identified. What is the condition? What is mandatory for a activity to start and end? And there is a baseline schedule, which is the idealistic schedule, and we keep monitoring baseline versus actual. There are different dependencies. This, I don't know whether people are familiar. It's a very, very, very tricky thing. Normally, we go with the first dependency, FS. In project management tool, if you see, you have different dependencies. How do we link one activity to another? If A to B has to be linked, we can start only when A is completed. Say, for example, unless the civil foundation is over, I cannot put a mechanical equipment or salt plate, I cannot put on the top of the civil foundation. So there are different dependencies, like B can start only when A is started. B can start only when A is finished. So there are various dependencies. If I get into that with examples, it will take at least a lot of time. But this is very important for people appearing for PMI certification. There will be tricky questions. What is FF dependency? And they will give some examples and ask, is it FF or SS? Say, for example, something like SF. Task B can only finish when task A is started. Can we think about something like, your security relieving, something like that? Unless the B shift security starts, A shift duty will not be over. So that is, very easy example to talk about start to finish examples. So probably you can go through these examples a bit later. Now we will come to scheduling. What are the points to be considered? See, in scheduling, what happens is there are, we talked about identifying the activities and having assigning some time to the activity. And some of all activities in the MS project, we will identify the critical path, and that is the time. There is various methods. What is the estimated time? There is a triangular distribution, and there is a Monte Carlo model, what they call beta distribution. Most optimistic plus 4 into optimistic plus 4 into most likely plus most specific divided by 6. That is one way people will arrive at the activity. Because if I ask somebody, you have to go to Hyderabad, go to DSQ, get some papers and come back. Somebody will say, I will come 6 hours to go, 1 hour there and 6 hours to come. 6 plus 6, 12 plus 1, 13 hours. But somebody will say, if I reach there, by the time I reach there, today is Sunday and office will be off. So tomorrow morning I will get the paper, I will come back after 2 days. So the estimation of time depends on individual. Then how do we do an accurate estimation? We can do most optimistic plus most likely and most pessimistic divided by 3. The triangular distribution might be called. Or we can have O plus 4 plus 3 by 6. So there are various models. And there are, if you look at the graph, there are other models like expert judgment. Somebody who has done the project earlier, if somebody has to have an overall timeline of a pipe mission project, an expert will say it's at least 18 months. So we need not get into minute detail. Then 3-point estimate we discussed, comparative estimate, parametric estimate. Something like if 1 square meter whitewashing takes X amount of time, for 2000 square meter, how much time it takes? That is called parametric estimate. Important. So these are all very, very fundamental. All of us are knowing, but only we should know what terminology is used where. And there is something called project slack. Okay, once you have the activities linked in your MS project, there is something called critical path. So any delay in your critical path will affect your end date. That is the importance of the critical path. Critical path will come in the red color if you are familiar with MS project. You don't have any buffer or any slack in the critical path. Whereas some other activity you will have some slack. Even if it is delayed by the available slack, it will not affect the project startup. This is a live for an actual S-curve in which we monitor. I didn't believe this is a PM1A project. So the pink color is one is the project plan from month 1 to month I think 26. It was supposed to get over by 100%. So this snapshot was March 18. It was 96% against the plan of 99%. And I'm happy to share the pulp on wire was on May 2018. So this is how. So from this S-curve, you can see that though we had some gap in month 12, month 13, month 14, it has gone up. Gap got widened, but still the project team is able to again put it back to the original baseline schedule. And so by the time we were in this snapshot is of March, the 99 versus 96, we are almost there on time. So that is the importance of baseline scheduling and monitoring month after month. And the project pulp on wire was on, I think, May 28th or so. Now, this is slightly complicated. The earlier project monitoring used to be only on the S-curve. But in modern days, people talk about something called earned value management. Earned value management talks about not monitoring what is the time schedule against the baseline schedule where we are, what is the cost you are incurring on one side, and what is the timeline as the project progresses. We also monitor the cost impact of the project, which is called earned value management. What is the value you planned? Against that, what is your actual cost incurred, and what is the value you earn? Because any project, initially your cost spending will be much more. Okay, say for example, in the project schedule, or when you do the S-curve, what we have discussed here, probably one equipment, headbox has not come in a paper machine. Critical components have not come. But if you go with this activity model, this S-curve and all, you will feel that you are 99% there. But the missing 1% could be a critical component or most valuable component. So we need to have a different methodology to monitor what is the value you earned value on any time of your project. So this monitoring, earned value manager gives you how much money you have spent and what is the value you earned, and therefore what is the gap, where is the schedule variance and what is the cost variance. And the project risk management, risk is nothing but an unexpected event which can have a threat on your scope or schedule or cost. See, another definition of risk, there can be a positive risk or a negative risk. You need to mitigate the negative risk, and the positive risk we need to, you need to leverage. I will go a bit fast now. Risk management, risk assessment, risk monitoring, risk control. Okay. Now, another important area is, very important area is project quality management. And quality will have different connotations under different people's mind, different stakeholders' mind. Manufacturing people will say, if I adhere to the specification, that is good enough. Customer will say it's a fit to use. Whether it is in your specification or not, he is not bothered, but it should be fit to use. But the final ultimate view is from the customer. So in any project, it's very important to have a quality management plan, which specifically mentions, what is your quality policy, what is your quality inspection parameters. You should also be mindful of what is your cost of conformance, also the cost of non-conformance. The cost of non-conformance, we are all knowing, if any damage is done, the rework we need to do. Cost of conformance is something like, Pioneer project, we were getting some equipment from China. So we put UV to inspect the work progress there. So they will go and confirm whether the quality standards are followed and the project is on time. That is a cost to us. It's a cost of conformance. But still, we are ensuring that there is no cost of non-conformance at the later stage of the project. Of course, project safety. No need to say the importance of safety and adhering to the statutory regulations. And project communication management, all seniors sitting there, Tulsi sir and all HR gurus, we know the importance of communication. What to communicate, when to communicate, and whom to communicate. So in our projects now, we have a communication plan. Those who have worked with me in the head office, we have a very clear communication plan. What will be communicated to whom at what frequency, and who will communicate. So once you have that clarity in mind, nobody will get missed out. Because in the first slide we said, for the stakeholder management, you have different types of stakeholders. Somebody who is interested, somebody who is having high influence. So from that, you will link it to the communication plan. So that is the importance of communication. Okay, there's a small cartoon over there. You can read it later. And importance of timely communication, and what to communicate, when to communicate, where are you keeping these documents. HR management, very important. How do we acquire project team members? How do we ensure the calendar of the resources is introduced overloaded? And what is the training need of the person? And we can't say that, when the project get into peak execution time, I will manage. It's when the project starts rolling, project manager and the HR manager will be nowhere. You will not be able to stop that, the requirement and the momentum. It's very important. And also, it is not like, what example they call is, tiles in a floor. Human resources are not identical. All are unique, like in a jigsaw puzzle. I cannot say if there is a problem in one tile in a floor, I can replace that tile with another tile because it's all unique. It's all alike. Whereas in case of human resources, they are all unique. It is not alike. So if somebody from a jigsaw puzzle is getting lost in the due course of your project, it is very difficult to get a right fit in the course of the project execution time. It is very important to keep this in mind so that you pay due respect and attention developing the resource management. And all people will come with a different skill sets, and we need to. And we already crossed 12. I will just touch upon procurement management. We all know what is procurement and how do we do a good procurement. But there are some standards of getting into a contract with a vendor. Normally, we only go with fixed price. What is the price of the head box? Okay, 1.5 million. You negotiate, you fix it. But there can be some other method, cost plus model. You issue the material yourself, and you give some profit to the person. Cost plus say 10%. Cost plus incentive, fixed price incentive. So there are various models, about 6-7 models, which is defined in the project management PMBOK, and you will be picking up one of these models. So the project manager or the procurement manager will be aware before you get into a negotiation that there are various models available. If you are not comfortable with the fixed price model, to de-risk, because there can be an escalation in the prices. So those models are available. It's cost plus fee. If something is depending upon the steel prices, you index it to that and give him the 10% premium on that. So there are different models of procurement which you need to follow. Now we are coming to project completion. We touched upon all the 10 knowledge areas. Now we are coming to completion. And for project completion, we should ensure that all your records are updated, your as-built drawings are made, and all outstanding issues are addressed. You collect the user manuals from the OEM and hand it over to your customer. It's like handing over the key when you're buying a car. And you have a formal project review and check whether the final deliverables, what you signed off your stakeholders, what you captured at the time of collect requirement phase, is it met? Because we talked about collecting requirement, identifying the scope, and also documenting the acceptance criteria. This, at the closure phase, we need to link it and close whatever we thought at the time of initiation phase, whether it is closed or not. Most importantly, what I marked in blue, update the lessons learned. What went well and what could have been done better. We need to document that so that project after project, you keep improving, you keep refining, you keep recalibrating your capabilities. That is a very, very important thing which normally we miss out. The moment project is over, you release the resources and you get back to normal work and obtain release from the other people. So what is the role of a project manager? As a good project manager, you take ownership of the project. It is my baby, what we told in the beginning. It's with passion, and he has to be proactive, not reactive. And he has to adequately plan the project. He is authoritative, he is decisive, and he's a good communicator. And he takes decisions based on data and information. And just to summarize, the project manager is a discipline that combines many general management tools and industry-specific knowledge. Very, very iterative and proactive process, because every stage of the project, right from collecting the requirement, identifying the schedule, it's an iterative process. And even for time estimation, cost estimation, we have expert advice, we have focus group discussions. So it's a very, very iterative and interactive process, so that the entire team is with you, entire stakeholder is with you. And even if you are not a so-called project manager, if you are the number 2 or number 3 in the project team, still you gain a lot of experience as a project manager. So it is not that only the project manager who wears that hat, who occupies the hot seats is the project manager. All of us in the project team are a sort of project manager in their respective areas of activities. And project manager definitely increases the likelihood of project success, because we are doing it in a systematic way. Now, the last slide, I would like to just share some pictures. Behind every successful installation or commissioning of any project, there are a team of people. The project team who is behind this, you can see the Triveni boiler there, and you can see PM7 Dhruva and PM7 finishing house. You're seeing the finished product somewhere, windmill, and you're also seeing maybe this PM1 Popil. That's it from my side. So thank you. I had to rush a bit, Sweetie. Sorry for that, because it's a even if you want to appear for the PMP exam, minimum mandatory classroom sessions is 35 hours. Oh, no,
Yes, sir.
the 35
PDUs.
hours I just, no, the PDU is different, sorry.
Okay.
PDU is what we need to, 35 hours of classroom training you need to have, which is done by a certified project management body, either a charter members or certified people. Then you are eligible to appear the exam, apart from having some 3-year minimum experience for a graduate engineer and some 7 years for a diploma engineer. PDU is one to required to, keep the thing alive, and it is also similar to PDU. Yeah, sorry, I'm talking. Open for any question answers and some feedbacks, and maybe.
Yes, sir. Before I take question and answer, I request Pradeep sir to say a few words.
Shall I stop sharing?
Yeah, I think so.
Sure.
So Hari, great presentation. I think very, very comprehensive coverage of project management in totality. I wish I had learned something like this before we managed those mega projects. Mega projects by our standards.
Right.
I would.
But you are doing most of it without maybe without a structured thing. Everything was there.
Most of the management
things you are covering.
Like some people cover it by instinct or by just by common sense or whatever. Yeah. But it is always good to have this kind of a structured background. And
right, sir.
As many people as can go through this kind of a drill, it may be worthwhile. So when has this Project Management Institute's kind of exam and all started? I mean, how many in PSPD would have gone through this?
No, here I am alone.
You are the only one.
I did it in 15. Some people attempted, they studied, but they have not cleared the exams.
Maybe the company can help them, you can help them too. Well, I think it's a great idea to put people through this.
Sure.
What I really appreciated was the HR in project management point which you brought in. It is totally disregarded. Generally, people feel that project means it's a highly technical thing, technical and finance thing, and you have to execute. Engineering skills are paramount important, and people management skills are relatively not there. So that was a great point that you made. A couple of questions. Is it still MS Projects everybody uses? Because I thought that was what we used 15 years back, and something more sophisticated would have got developed over a period of time.
So predominantly in a company like ours and in a normally Indian companies use MS Projects only. That is very sufficient. But there are something called Primavera, which most of the oil and gas and those type of projects are using that. That is slightly more complicated. Something like MS Project, we don't link the cost aspect to this. There is no end value management. We are only bothered about activity linking, dependencies, and the S curve. So for us, this is good enough. MS Project.
Right. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you,
sir. Want to say something? Tulsi sir, over to you.
Yeah. Hari, excellent presentation.
Thank you, sir.
I have just one question to ask. Is there any formal mechanism under Project Management Institute to make one responsible to collect all the data, important data, and keep a record of experiences gained in the project by the end of the time the project is over? Is there any system? You say all important information, experiences must be culled out and recorded at one place. Is there any system like that?
Yes, sir. In that phases, what I said, project closure, it is mandatory to have. If you go through that 49 processes, what I said, lessons learned is mandatory to mandatory to capture the lessons learned. What has gone well, what could have been better, so that the knowledge deposit is available to the next generation or the next batch of people. It is mandatory. It is mandatory.
Excellent.
You will not miss out anything if you follow that 49 processes.
Good.
But even in TPM, sir, we have this early management. Early management.
It is there.
Yes.
It is there.
Now, AV sir,
Yeah,
you have anything
excellent.
to say?
Hari?
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
Hari, excellent presentation and also, highly technical, very structured. And I'm glad, that there is someone who has come out, as a professional project manager from the team. And I think, as Pradeep said, you should take it forward, help the people to take this course and then become project managers, professionals. And
Sure.
in our time, it's not actually project management. We
Yeah.
used to have a passion management. We did everything with passion, not any by really kind of a structure
Right.
or something like that. Yeah. Okay. So whatever
Sure,
we
sir,
did,
sure.
most of the things which you have done, we would have done the same points. We would have
Right.
done by the same structure.
Absolutely.
We would not have followed actually.
Yeah.
And it's also relationship management. There's another aspect in project management is you just can't just go by structure just like that. You also have to have the relationship management, the way you manage people, the way you manage stakeholders, the way you manage your financial, your board or your the guys at the project approval stage itself, how you manage them to get your project approval. All these things are all at every stage. That relationship management also helps. Actually, that is what is
Sure.
actually required for a real true project manager. Vendor management. And in fact, vendor management is so critical that you'll have to go and then sit with him every month or every 2 months. You'll have to go critical vendors. You'll have to go to their place and then sit with them. See, because otherwise they'll keep giving you pictures, rosy picture. They'll send you a graph saying that everything is going to be ready tomorrow. I'm going to deliver and all that. All this is going to be
Right.
failure if you don't have the basis on the actual ground reality. No, you remember that. That's why we used to have 4 or 5 managers sitting in the works.
Sitting on. Yeah.
Sitting in Karuna and Malik going there and then their factories almost months together. They sit with them and they almost run their factories and then get the project. That's the reality in India actually. That's another reality in India. To make it happen, your S-curve is a very good one, and also I am glad that you touched upon the S-curve monitoring of money also.
Yeah.
Another picture is, you can give a graph saying that 90% completed. If you're
Right.
70, 80% money is not spent, that whatever this project manager is projecting is not right. He's only giving you to make you happy. He's giving you a picture. That is another aspect. Third
Yes, sir.
aspect is one thing what is critical is money management. When you spend 80% of the project cost is spent already, material has already come, almost another 10% work is left. This is the time where you'll have to take quick decisions, like, putting them on
Right.
overtime and then splitting the order, canceling the order. These are the time of quick decision making. This is where another thing, where if you go by, rules and all saying that, no, I can't break the order. I'll have to go and then check with them and all. If you take like that, because your cost of money starts hitting you that time. In the initial stages, you can take a lot of time to decide and all that you can whatever. But when your 80% of the money is sunk, time is sunk, then that is the time where you'll have to be very quick and you'll have to project manage to go and convince the stakeholders, both stakeholders of vendor and others, say that, I'm canceling, I'm taking off this order, and then the part of it, someone else is doing 10 roles, I'm going to do somewhere else. You have to convince them, otherwise you can't go by you hard and fast rules. So these are all the small things, which will actually make things happen. I'm sure all the team in project team, they are aware of all these things now, and it's very good. And take it forward.
Sure,
all
sir.
the best.
Sure. Thanks for the nice words, sir. Thank you.
Sir, there is a question from Mr. Barla. I am unmuting him. Mr. Barla, Dr. Barla.
Yeah, can I speak?
Yes.
Mr. Harinarayanan, wonderful
Yeah.
presentation. Thank you very much for the wonderful presentation. It's like a refresher course in a college. Bahut hi acha laga, it's very good. And my question is regarding the students who would like to join as trainees. What are the kind of opportunities they have in general industry, not necessarily in paper industry, but chemical, steel or iron, whatever it is. In the industry in post-COVID era, what is the kind of opportunities the fresh graduates, we have BTech graduates, we have BSc graduates and so on. And what are the top 10 skills we are supposed to impart to them so that they are successful in the first 1 year, second year? You know, the ones that you talked about, to me, it appeals that they are the skills required after 5 years of the career or after 3 years of the career, depending on his speed. But in the colleges, we are more concerned about training the project management personnel from the first year, second year, and so on. So can you highlight the job opportunities so that we can create interest in the graduates? B, the top 10 skills, if you need not cover top 10, but then top 2 or 3 or 5, whatever it is. Thank you, Hari.
Yeah, nice question, sir. I'm not that competent to, for the job opportunity and the skill development. Skill development itself is a major challenge. Employability. Even if we go to engineering colleges now and ask a qualified engineer what is the difference between AC and DC, sometimes they struggles. And if I ask whether the fan on the top or the light on the room, the AC or DC, they struggles. So that is the quality of education nowadays. So before getting on to the people to the project management, as you rightly said, the basic engineering skills and the basic discipline has to be brought in the culture and in their skill set. Of course, project management all will come as a spice, the icing on the cake. But basic person has to be competent in either in his domain, whether mechanical or electrical or instrumentation, whatever it is. These are all add-on. There is no substitute to the basic core competency. That is my feelings. But there are colleges which takes even, somebody approached me also to take a class in some session to just to get them a flavor of what happens in the industry, what is project management all about. But they may not be able to apply these processes in their initial years of the career, but they will understand the big picture. For example, that's what I was telling. My example in Rohit, when I joined there, I still know what sequence of process they need to do. Brownstock washer, blow tank, bloodstock washers, chlorine caustic hypo stages, and some piping I had to do. But I was not knowing the big picture. Having a background of project management, I would have definitely asked my boss that time when I am supposed to complete this, what is the impact on time and cost if I delay? What is the quality procedures? What is the acceptance criteria once I complete it? It gives much more wholesome feel and satisfaction to a person if he is knowing that the purpose of what he is doing. So that is only for me to add. Probably Pradeep sir and they will complement.
Before I take next question, can I ask Mr. Krishnan to
yes, Krishnan.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Krishnan.
Audible. Okay. I was just trying to just figure out between the early management pillar of TPM and the focus improvement, the dynamic chart and things like that, and also with the ISO 21500 project management style. I was just trying to figure out something which is not in common, which is there.
Okay.
One good thing which has come out of the earned value management.
Yeah.
Rather than just about the time versus the money, the earned value, the predicted value and the earned value, and what is the deliverable that at what speed that you're going to get, and what is that opportunity you're going to miss. Probably those two things are the real things which are mapped to this. So that is where the success of the project depends. And here I would like to like we are doing for a project, for the pulp mill, for things like that. I was just trying to map. I will always remember one saying by Pradeep for any of the pulp mill project, especially during the BCTMP project. Pradeep was saying in one of the meetings, saying that paper machine project, okay, yeah, you have a gestation period, you have got a market development, you have got a things like that. Your pulp mill project, the customer is already sitting there looking at the tower. So that your target date is 10th June. If it is 10th June, A shift means 10th June, B shift. If you drop the pulp there itself, 8-hour loss. You have lost the money. So that kind of thing, even without this PMI and all, the visionaries like our predecessors, like Pradeep and all, they have brought in this type of concept at that time itself. And so much of cost conscious, so much of time conscious, so much of project deliverables and things like that. So we are very happy that we have worked during those tenure. Pradeep, thanks a lot for those type of inputs. And now the only thing what I'm seeing is you have to elaborate on this, the focus improvement and this, how do we map it and what are the things which are missing in other than this in the, I would like to have more on the earned value management.
Yeah,
Now the second point which I would have really loved to see is whatever the chart, the second or third chart, what you have shown me is the project cost overrun and the project delay of 27% and 29%. Most of them are related to the government funded projects.
Yeah.
Government projects. I would have really loved to see some of the earlier ITC projects and some of the industry competitive benchmarking, you know, like JK has done a lot of projects. There's nothing secret, no. JK has done a lot of projects,
Yeah.
ITC has done a lot of projects. My cost overrun is 10% or 5%. My time overshot is by 3 months or 4 months or something like that. Then probably it would give you some insight. In spite of all these things, Hari, please take it for granted. There's no cut copy paste. No, every
Absolutely.
own signature. Every system has its own signature. Like we sitting in DNPL, the government company, there are a lot of big differences between how a corporate runs a project, how a government funded project, how a government company runs the project. So there are a lot of things. Here, I cannot directly apple to apple, I cannot pick up one-to-one comparison, but especially the time management and the earned value management and the vendor management. What are the places that we can speed up the project and get more deliverable at the fastest rate and highest value for the company? That's what I was looking for. Thank you very much for a nice insight and a very useful presentation and a great job done. And if you have the comparison of the corporate companies and the private companies, how the cost overrun and the time overrun, if that data is available, it can be shared.
It is not available in a public domain. It is not authenticated figures, you know. These are all available public figures, these public sector things.
Okay.
Krishna, TNBL are going to have a project or a program? Only Pulp Mill or Pulp Mill plus Pepper Machine?
No, actually, it's a program, but
or a portfolio.
No, I am very conscious of that. I'm calling it
Okay.
a program. We broke that into 2 parts in 2 phases in 2 different periods.
Okay, sure.
Actually, it is 3. Pulp Mill,
Okay.
then Paper Machine, then BCTMP again. Hardwood Pulp Mill, Paper BCTMP. So it is a big program.
It's a big program, and you have different projects in that. Good. It's a very good example so that everybody is clear.
Fantastic.
Can I ask Mr. Shivanarayan to ask his question?
Yeah.
Krishnan sir, thank you.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi, Shiva.
Yeah. Hi, Hari. Great to see you and all the stalwarts and interact with you.
Hi, Shiva.
Yeah. So actually, I have a couple of points. We at ABB, we are actually many of the things what you told, just for the comfort of the fellow participants. It's not all theory because actually many companies are practicing it, and I'm happy to share that we at ABB are practicing it. The templates and the terminology may be different, but I think this is a day in and day out process. So I think that's all this. Maybe many years back this was theory, but no, it's no longer theory. It's happening day in and day out. And another point of what I had was we are actually following a project stage gate model from 0 to 7. Gate 0 is, let's say, concept, and gate 7 is closure. So everything what you said actually is split into different gates, and each gate has to be decided as a go or a no-go by the steering committee. The steering committee will have representation from the management, finance, and the product management. So effectively, everybody is a party to the gate decision that the gate is okay to go to the next stage. So I was just wanting to understand if this project gate model is a regular norm as per PMI, and if so, is ITC using such a stage gate model, which I found is very useful. And last point to add is, we also should not confuse only the mega projects as a big projects. For example, at ABB, if I want to change a vendor from A to B, that resourcing itself is a project on its own going through the stage gate model. So if you have a chemical vendor to change from one to another, that could be a small project. And however small it is, I would always suggest that this stage gate model is a very helpful tool because everybody is a signatory to the whole stage gate decision. So yeah, basically is ITC using such, and is it a normal practice as per PMI? Thank you all for the opportunity.
Yeah, Shiva, just to add on to what you are saying, we talked about the planning stage, then execution and controlling. In the planning stage, you decide, what are all going to be your checks, quality checks, inspection checks, everything. And in the execution and controlling phase, you monitor against that. It's an integral part of the project management process. If you get into that 49 processes, you will see this. Against what document, against what quality criteria, what you have set, what inspection is doing. It's a cost of conformance. I covered about that plan of quality confirmation. It's very much a part of it. And the gates what we are talking about is, whether to go to the next phase. In some projects, after the first gate or second gate, there is a window whether to deviate from that project and get into something else. That also happens. So such cases, this is very, very crucial. In projects where the goal is very clear, come what may, we are going to go ahead with this. So still there is a milestone, but the gate is not maintained such a serious way. It's very much part of the project management system.
But is ITC following such a gate approach, Hari?
Is gate approach means there is something called definitely yes, something called a checklist. After the commissioning is done, we do a checklist in terms of what is the alignment values, what is the mechanical leveling and all. Unless that is signed off, we will not go to next phase of startup. It is something similar to that.
Can I ask?
It's a vendor inspection. TUV goes to the vendor and certifies that this is in order in all aspects. Then he gives a certificate, then we clear it. Okay, you can dispatch the material. It's all, in a way, it's all related. It's a duty of the project manager or the team to tweak or to make it customized to your project and your.
Understood. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Banu want to ask a question. After this, only one question. Mr. Satya has question. Banu garu, over to you.
Yeah. Good morning, everybody. Harina, right?
Morning, Bhanu.
Morning. How are you?
I am good, Bhanu.
Yeah. Your presentation is excellent, and we are very happy. And we are all come across by maybe practically, not maybe theoretically, the way you presented. I was a part of number 4 and number 5 mission in ITC. I was very happy.
Yeah.
And by seeing present scenario, we are now already, our Mr. Krishnan, our EDO, already explained. We are in the process of projects 1, 2, 3. Like pulp mill, pepper machine, next BCMP, further maybe one tissue machine, and all is there. The present scenario, our project is in the middle. Already started, is in the middle. Now we have a tough task like this COVID. Everything scheduled and everything now become a fully dynamic. All suppliers, everybody is fully dynamic, and they are not able to. Already what you told, no? That the curve, graph, everything we made, the target dates we put, this is our final date, we have to take the pulp in this particular day. Now, because of this dynamic, how we can use your tool to come back to the situation. Nowhere commitments are there, not there. Everything is day by day or hour to hour, it is changing. So to achieve that target, whether the tool will be helpful. That's what.
Yeah. Very, very relevant question, Anu. Very apt to the current circumstances. But it is not the tool alone. It is the structured way of approach. For example, if you have a robust WBS elements, what are the activities you have to do? You have dependencies in place. There is something called project crashing. Okay, can we take out the slacks in any project? Can we again play with this predecessor and successor models? Can you make it, project crashing itself is a topic. So without impacting the quality of the project, probably the cost may go up slightly. So these tools and these systems will help you without impacting any of the deliverables. You will be able to excuse it. But ultimately, end of the day, everybody studies MBBS, but some doctors are good, some doctors are not that good. Okay, so what Krishnan was saying and what HR concept, what people they were appreciating seniors. Bhanu's presence makes a difference, as Krishnan also said. Everybody knows how to use to run a project, but some people navigate in a different way. So it's up to the individual's skill set. That is what makes the difference.
Yeah.
I don't know whether I answered or not, but tools are only a means. Ultimately, the people have to make it happen.
Yeah, it's correct. And in your entire thing, the stakeholder is our contractors also will come as a stakeholder.
Very much.
Yeah.
Very much. Is he getting affected, impacted, or influenced? He is a stakeholder.
Yeah.
Very much. Yeah.
He should be happy. Then only everything will be more smooth. What I had.
Again, if you map him into that 2x2 matrix, what is his interest? His interest is only the daily wage. Is he going to influence more? Not much. So he will be coming the first quadrant. Based on that, you handle him. His interest is what? He wants to get the job, wage. Are you paying him? Are you keeping him engaged in some form of the other? If the material has not come, he is staying there idle. He's a migrant labor. You engage him in something else so that his needs are met. That's it. His need is very less. So he's in the first quadrant. But whereas somebody, a different stakeholder, or your IAS officer who is going to fund, or for the senior management, their requirement is different. He has got a lot of interest, lot of influence. So for him, you need to give a strategic answer. You should say all over India, this is the status, this is what is happening, this is how you are going to mitigate the risk. So you need to have different stakeholders, different treatment.
Right. Understood. Thank you.
Yeah, that is only I can. Yeah. Thank you.
Sir, before I hand over to Satya, I want Ganapati to speak. He joined from US in the middle of the night and he's appearing for PMP exam. Ganapati, you have any question?
Yes, sir. I have one small question. Unlike the leaders here, my experience has been more with IT projects throughout my career. So I see there is a big wind from the agile direction. IT projects are moving more into agile methodologies these days. So I just want to check with you guys if we had any experience or any initiation related to agile projects in our deployments or developments.
Ganapati, I just touched upon the agile versus waterfall model. In agile, the basic concept is you make small deliverables and deliver it to the customer, take their feedback and correct it. There's the course correction possible, fine tuning possible. Whereas in a project like ours, it's more normally we follow a waterfall model.
Okay. Yeah.
We don't do any course correction in between normally. But of course, it is very much relevant to have a agile concept also into this, so that you can take feedback from your customers and do some course corrections. The sprints, what they talk about, it's a slightly a different topic in IT, what they follow. But we can.
Thank you.
Okay, Sachinand Garu, ask your question.
Good morning, Harinarayan.
Morning, Satya.
Excellent presentation. We are really helpful.
Sachinand Garu, voice kudiya
not audible.
Not completely audible. Speak louder.
Are you able to hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, perfect.
Thank you very much, Harinarayan. Really great presentation. I just have two questions. One is any industrial project management, if they integrate these concepts, see any systematic approach is basically is following PDCA cycle of ISO system. So if you integrate this to ISO system, I think you will get all the benefits of project management. So I just want to have your opinion on this. And my second question is, you can see many public projects, means government projects, central government or state government. Okay, we are implementing our projects in a very systematic way. We are getting the benefits. See, you have observed our Polavaram project in Andhra Pradesh, which is pending for last 40, 50 years. See, I think you may be aware of the background. So with the project management approach, so what kind of systems will help government, or your intervention means your suggestion to the forum to reap the benefits to the society?
That's what. Good question. See, PDCA is a very basic level of concept, plan to check act. Whereas the structured way, the project management 49 processes under the 5 phases It is much more elaborate and much more interconnected. If you get into the subsections, all the 49 processes also will get connected to what is the link between the planning phase and what is the link in the control phase. It is much more robust and sophisticated. Probably it's like a normal Maruti car and a BMW. EDC is a very basic thing. It has also got 4 tires and 1 steering and all. But in the 49 processes and the project management methodology, it is much more sophisticated and much more advanced. Okay. Coming to the Polavaram project, it was one of the case studies what I don't know who was that person, he presented. It was a very well executed project, and it was projected in the last year's best projects of India, one of the best projects of India. And it got an award, and they followed exactly as per the project management guidelines. Okay. There were project management certified people, and there are some people who are insisting. I think they had some consultant. This is one of the good case studies what people talk about. I think it got commissioned on time, and 400 meters water pumping up, and they meticulously followed these aspects. L&T Metro Rail in Hyderabad and this Polavaram project is the 2 good case studies which normally people talk about. They talk about in forums. I don't know internally how much they have.
Harinara, you may be talking about Kaleshwaram project of Telangana.
Oh, sorry, Kaleshwaram. It is Kaleshwaram. I stand corrected. Kaleshwaram. Yeah, I am not very familiar. Polavaram is the project itself has not come, no?
Yes.
So not that goes into that 40% category or something, the delayed ones.
Yes.
See, there are many failure projects and the learnings. Normally, unfortunately, we talk about only success projects. There are many things to learn from the failures also, which always in big conferences people talk about. Importance of sharing those learnings also. But nobody will come up and say that we have failed in this project and this is the learning. Therefore, we want to share with everybody. That is not happening.
Thank you, Narayan. And
Satya, for all this, top management's commitment is very important. The difference between your KCR and other leaders is the difference. That's all.
Okay.
He was very, aggressive, and then he wanted to make it happen. He made it happen. Simple. Yeah.
Okay.
See, even the Ministry of Statistics and Program Management, if you go, there is a dashboard which says, how many Ujala gas connections has given yesterday. I think at least on a weekly basis that's updated. How many Mudra loans have been given is getting updated online. When that Jan Dhan Yojana bank account opening was happening, it was getting updated online on a dashboard which all of us can see. That is the type of monitoring which PMO was doing, means Prime Minister's office was doing on these major projects of current government.
Thank you, Arun. Can you share your presentation to Silvers?
I will give it to Suri, probably in a PDF form.
Yes.
I think there is nothing. I kept it yesterday. I edited, and see, normally when I present it to my team here, I will put a lot of our internal things. So I have tried to take it out. I will do that, Suri. I will send it to Suri, and he can.
Thank you, sir. Now I request, Sir Pradeep, sir, with your permission. Okay, Mr. Barla want to ask.
Dr. Barla wants to.
Yeah.
A small one. People like Mr. Mansoor, who has put up a paper mill, and all the engineers that BPL had taken in the beginning would come up and done a wonderful job in the later years. To me, it appears that all the project management fundas that we are talking about are only ornaments, but the basic beauty in the person, the basic parameters which basic qualities which drive a person to be a good project manager are still not coming in the planning, execution, and the PDCA cycle and all that we are talking about. They're all, to me, is an intellectual processes, intellectual, the jig of rejig of the thing which the faculties and the project managers and directors are talking about. I'm still to figure out what distinguishes a project manager, a successful project manager, from others. Are there any specific qualities that we can bring out and a syllabus be made out for the PMI courses? because otherwise I have built several engineering colleges, five engineering colleges with MBA embedded. I have built those colleges and handed over. I am not a project manager. I have done one for Sanskriti Business School, Engineering College in Puttaparthi. I am doing now one for Madras Christian College. I have another project which is on hand, which I have to complete in the next 3 years. Now these projects I am handling with my team without any fundas. I have never studied project management. I have undergone general management courses. But what ticks in me, I am not able to figure myself, but I am doing. Like Madhu has done, put up a classic and Viva boards, and Mr. Pradeep Doble and Avirav Garu, they have, they have done. Any clues about what you have in your life, identified your basic traits, which made you more successful? Thank you.
Who is the question to?
Is it
Hari,
to
go
me
ahead.
or?
Hari, go ahead.
Okay. It was a long question. First of all,
You began by
success...
saying it's a short question.
No, first of all, success is again relative. What is success as far as you are concerned, or what is success in our, it's against targets and what target you are keeping. And as I mentioned in my slide, these processes and systems will ensure that the success rate of a project, irrespective of who the project manager is and what skill set he is bringing. If the project manager is adopting the processes, it will help. If you are asking me specifically, probably I think the aspects of HR management, acknowledging the fact that all individuals are not same. Somebody will have a skill set in some area. I cannot ask a person who is good in the shop floor work to make a beautiful presentation to my management committee. He is good in shop floor, let him do the shop floor job. Somebody who is good in presentation, he will make the presentation. So I need to make that balance. So the HR skills and giving the freedom and the comfort to the people, and still involving them in your structured communication management. In our project, we had Monday morning, everybody will get an email from our office saying what is the status of the project. What was planned last week? What is planned for next week? What is the labs? It goes from the system. So everybody feels, involved in the project, and we are open. Any delay is the delay is there. So such things involving people, because I also had in 2003 we did a software project. There the stakeholder management was not that effective. So the product was very good. We faced challenges at the time of rollout. So this is my learning, to take care of areas other than the so-called technical and processes. I think that is probably my seniors would add if I am so-called successful.
So Barla, a few comments on the question you asked. First of all, maybe not directly related to your question, but I want to say something which your current bosses may not like, Hari and other people who are in projects right now. The focus on project cost and project time management, the key deliverables from the project manager are project cost and project time implementation. I mean, they get monitored on a very large frequency basis, whereas the real objective of the project is to deliver what the project is supposed to deliver. So that being the case, let me say, somebody mentioned that all our projects were done in time and all that. It's not so. In fact, most of our projects were delayed. In fact, most of our projects had cost overrun. Reason, because we are in a very dynamic situation. PM4 project started as a rebuild of PM1 at 140 crores project cost. It ended up with a brand new machine with a power block of 675 crores. It's the largest project that a paper industry has ever seen and will ever see. Why I'm saying, today I'm doing 1,000 crores, 1,200 crores project, but 676 crores in 1996, when it was approved, is 2,600 crores today. If you take the dollar value escalation and the inflation and things like that. It was that big a project, and the company's size was only 200. Our turnover was only 250 crores at that time. But 250 crores turnover company taking a project which was 3 times as big. So if the result was not good, we were finished, absolutely finished. So at every stage, you know, Mr. Maliwal, Mr. Shetty, and initially Mr. Chugh, but at a later time, even Mr. Deveshwar, he used to get involved and monitor and do course correction. It's very, very difficult. You know, we say the top management has no influence once the project gets going. It's not so. Just imagine a rebuild project getting modified into completely new machine project. That was Mr. Deveshwar's first board meeting. And he was asked by Chugh at the end of the presentation, what do you feel about it? And his comment was, don't do all this rebuild and all. Your company depends on this PM1. If anything goes wrong, the company is finished. You just cannot afford to take that risk. Go for a new machine. It will cost you more. It will be more pain in terms of raising finance, so on and so forth. So that, you know, the project manager for paper mill projects of this size, I'm not talking about changing some pump somewhere, and you know, those are continuous improvement projects. They purview of QM, TPM, etc. I'm talking about large projects like a new pulp mill or a new paper machine or new product you get into, things like that. There, the project manager, the so-called project manager, is the project implementation manager.
Right.
The project manager is the CEO, and his involvement is very, very, very essential. There will be no success if you don't do that, because in our case, generally the project department hands over the project to the operations. And we have seen what kind of friction happens there, you know. So unless you have a continuity there, you know, 2 of the projects which I handle, I became production manager of those projects after completing. So that was a strategy Mr. Chugh adopted. He said, this fellow, he is setting up a project, let him go and run it. Then he knows the pain, you know, what the operation people.
Everything has done now also.
Yeah. So
not...
when the stainless steel pipe is not available, you go and put a mild steel pipe. You find it and you complete the project in time. And later on, you keep getting slime and stuff like that. So, you know, that involvement, ownership is always at the top. You know?
Yeah.
So that is a reason. And so people who set up projects, go away to next project, go away to next project, they are project implementation managers. So Marla, to answer your specific question that you have set up so many schools, management schools and engineering schools and all, what is the yardstick of success? Was it to install, to start a school with 1,000 students, with so many courses, etc., etc.? I call that project implementation manager. The project manager, if you said my benchmark is REC Warangal or whatever, NIT Warangal, my students will be as good as people coming out of NIT Warangal. That is the real success of a project. I'm saying that is the approach. If you take, you will do the project in a completely different way. I mean, if you're still doing some projects, I would like you to take this challenge. It's challenging. It's challenging. The people who are funding you may not be willing to do that. They may say, no, if I have 1,000 students, I'll charge them so much, I'll make money. Education also become a money-making business, you know. So that ultimate project, if PM4 had not delivered Tetra Pak, coated Tetra Pak quality and coated cigarette board quality and the export quality, we would have been finished. So those are my closing remarks, if I can call it.
Sure.
Sir, we are running out of time. Prakash Pathak sir is raising hand since very long. I request him to conclude very fast. Pathak sir, over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much. First of all, it was an excellent presentation by Hari. Congratulations. Secondly, I would like to compliment the remarks made by Mr. Pradeep Doble. We started at corporate EHS initially auditing only the running units, production units, whether it is a hotel or a factory. Mr. Chugh, for the first time, he told us to do an audit of a project. And I remember ITC Moria and Windsor Manor were the 2 hotel projects. And we went there and we brought out so many deficiencies. So the project manager went furious. He said, if you ask this requirement, I'm nowhere. I cannot deliver the project. It was Mr. Chugh who said, don't worry. Let the project cost go up. Let the even the deadline go up. But I want to sell this Windsor Manor So I think the support given by the top management at the highest level was excellent. Thank you.
Sir, with all permission, I am now asking Ganapati to share his vote of thanks on behalf of all of us.
Yes.
Ganapati, over to you.
Thanks, Suri. Yeah, thank you so much. First of all, I believe we went little over schedule. The schedule management didn't work out very well, but next time we do something, we will properly plan and maybe have a bigger session. But it's definitely worth with the kind of leadership we have on call. I was thinking, the combined experience of the leadership we have on call put together is 100 PMPs or more than that. And people like Pradeep sir, AV sir, Krishnan sir, you guys can yourself define a project on your own. You can write a book and probably that will end up as the bestseller for paper industries or something. So thank you so much, sir, especially the top leadership. I know how valuable your time is. You guys spending a couple of hours with all of us, the next generation guys. It's really appreciable. Thank you so much. And of course, man of the moment, Hari sir, very well organized deck, I would say. I was trying to bury myself into this fat PMP books, the 6th edition, especially without any direction. But your presentation will definitely help me. I think I need to be more organized now. I'm trying to read everything, but that's not the way I believe. Thank you, really appreciate your deck and the sequence of activities you covered, sir. I had one question on the contact info, but I see one of the last slides you had, you put your email ID in there, so which can be of help to anyone who is looking at the deck. If you have any questions, we can contact Hari sir. And of course, our folks, you were a little worried, Hari sir, in the beginning. We have single-digit folks, but you see now there are so many of us. That's great. Yeah, great. Again, it's the team spirit we are showing. We should really appreciate Suri, repeatedly reminding folks that, hey, this is the time, be there on time. And he was reposting the Zoom invite again and again so as to make sure everybody is aware of the invite. And of course, thanks to everybody else on the call. We have some seniors, my seniors, who were keeping quiet, like Jagan was there, Chandu sir was there. They were keeping quiet probably because of the time that we spent. But yeah, definitely next time we will plan, do a better schedule and make sure the silent guys would speak up then, and then we'll have a fun meeting for sure. Thanks everyone, and really appreciate you guys spending time with us. Thanks again.
Thank you,
Thank
Gani.
you.
I request
Thank
all
you so
those, I am unmuting all now. Whoever want to stay for long and interact with each other, they can remain in the, I will keep it open for all of you who are seeing each other for first time.
Thank you very much, Hari. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Krishnan sir. Thank you all. Thanks for joining.
Hari, thank you.
Pradeep sir, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir.
Pradeep.
Thank you, Amy sir. Thank you, Pradeep sir. Thank you, Tulsi
Bye
sir.
bye. Bye bye.
Bye. Satyanarayana.
Yes, sir. Tell me. Sachinarayana.
See, I was trying to connect myself on the laptop with Zoom meeting. I was not able to do it.